Chapter 123b, Happiness Reflected on the Water. Taking a breath, she again challenges the tomb that she just exited. Inside the stone tomb, isolated from moonbeams, only the pale glow of the walls provides any source of light. It wasn't uncommon, in places where ambient mana thrived, that such natural phenomena helped to preserve visibility. However, it was unusual for this natural lighting to be inside a man-made structure. It had, most likely, been reproduced by some inbuilt mechanism of the building. A mechanism like a mattia, functional so long as the required mana was stockpiled. Sensing that the lighting in the tomb follows this or similar logic, Amelia quietly takes a breather. Inside this tomb, she feels the presence of the minor spirits distantly. It's not that they're gone. Minor spirits are like ambient mana, existing everywhere. There's a question of whether you can perceive their presence, or whether they're strong enough for their presence to be perceived, but they would be utterly absent nowhere. This particular perception of them arose from the wall's light-producing mechanisms. The tomb preserves a rather high rate of mana passage into and out of its space. The mana inside the tomb is kept at a fixed volume, with mana quantities never exceeding or falling short of that amount. The degree of mana needed for preserving the wall lights is so scant that the minor spirits cannot manifest themselves sufficiently, and that's why their presence in this tomb feels faint. Even assuming that minor spirits are present, they would be debilitated in this environment. Amelia, this place is so nasty for spiritualists. Reaching that conclusion, Amelia mutters to herself. Perhaps overcoming the first trial liberated her somewhat from her sense of being cornered. Having finally gained enough composure to observe her surroundings, Amelia's impression of the tomb is that it's not any great threat for a magician, who casts using the mana stored inside themselves. But if they exhausted their stores, they would have no means to replenish them, and a magician with few gates would probably find the tomb a troublesome place too. Though if we're talking Amelia or Roswell, it would barely affect their combat capabilities. Amelia, which is strange, since I can hardly sense anyone outside. Having regained her capabilities as a magician, Amelia's perception of mana has strengthened. When she was outside the tomb, she felt the mana of so many entities that she couldn't restrain it. She had probably picked up the mana of practically all creatures, or perhaps the presence of practically all OD, tugging at her perception. The wear on her mind was intense. She would need to learn how to control it quickly. But that behind-the-scenes battle is postponed while inside the tomb. Instead, she needs to wait for the trial. Honestly, she doesn't know which option's preferable. Amelia, Ram was pleading me. Have to keep focused. Amelia thinks of Ram, begging to Amelia with her head bowed. Ram never showed such weakness, and there she was bearing her emotions so intensely. How could Amelia repay her for everything until now if not by answering to her plea? Subaru, having returned to the mansion without observing Amelia's results, also had faith in her. His actions expressed his unwavering conviction that Amelia could do it. She needed to answer to Subaru's trust. Or actually, she needed to do even better than expected and surprise him. Amelia, I'm glad they believe in me, but that's not what this is about. Though they might have been in a rush, Amelia still has to object to the fact that they all left without seeing her. She should be permitted to jolt them and sulk. And especially in Subaru's case. The two of them needed to have a very, very serious conversation after this. Amelia, anyway, this feeling, the trial's here. The moment she entered the tomb, Amelia felt it on her skin. She had been somewhat unconvinced that exiting and entering the tomb would be enough for the trial to prepare itself, but the overwhelmingly cool air in the tomb keenly informs her of the truth. There's no need to postpone it. Inside the trial room, the second trial is awaiting Amelia. Amelia, I saw my past. Then, the next one is. Her cheeks tense, nearly stiff, as she strokes her belly. She uses the irregularity in her breathing to determine whether her nerves are steeled. They are, acceptably so. The trial room waits unchanging as it welcomes Amelia. It hasn't even been an hour since she left. Of course it hasn't changed. Perhaps this room alone preserves a greater load of mana, for visibility is slightly better here than in the hallway. The doorway in the back of the room stands shut and healthy as ever. What awaits her there, once she has overcome the third trial? Just as she thinks that thought, witness the uncommentable present, Amelia, HK she hears it. Murmured at her ear, her own voice. The instant she attempts to consider what uncommentable present could mean, her consciousness fades to white. The intense sensation tears Amelia's mind and soul from her body, dragging her into another world. Unable to rebel, Amelia crumples leaning against the tomb's wall, before collapsing. Her vision blurs. Her thoughts flee. Her consciousness drowns. Amelia, Subaru, unsure of what her own lips said at the close, the trial begins. Hey now, Leah. Where are you going off to? Come over here. Stopped by that gentle voice, Amelia turns around. A woman with short silver hair beckons her to the dining table. Her eyes are nasty. Her voice is gentle. Either indicates Amelia's ideal for women. Amelia, mother, Fortuna. Fortuna. Are you still half asleep? Then you stayed up late again. You're not a child anymore, you can't be giving others trouble like that. Fortuna approaches, her tone chiding as she pokes Amelia in the forehead. Pressing down on the faint red mark on her forehead, Amelia widens her eyes. Amelia, whoa. A sound of astonishment slips out her lips before she can register it. That's how greatly the sight strikes at Amelia's heart. This is the first time Amelia has ever seen Fortuna sacrifice her ease of movement and wear an apron. The over-adorned frilly white apron mismatches to Fortuna's personality, but suits well to her beautiful appearance. Amelia, mother, you're cute. Fortuna. Where did that come from? You really are half asleep. Her cheeks reddening slightly, Fortuna grasps Amelia's shoulders and turns her around. She gives Amelia's back a push and, Fortuna, wash your face in the river. You'll stop saying weird things once the cold water's woken you up. Though when it's you, Leah, that might not change even when you're properly awake. Amelia, what are you saying, mother? That's not what it is. I'm not half asleep at all, and I didn't say anything a trifle weird in the first place. Fortuna, where are you learning this archaic speech a trifle? I'm so worried that everyone might be teasing you and putting these things in your head. I'll have interrogate Arch later. Amelia pouts. But Fortuna merely nods back, not conceding an inch. While shocked that her own opinions are not working, Amelia slumps her shoulders and starts walking her journey for the river. Goodness, hello there, Amelia. You're not looking the cheeriest, gosh, she really isn't. Which means Fortuna-sama told her off. She maybe stayed up late, Amelia's old enough now. I'm sure she wants her me time now and then. After exiting her house and embarking along the road to the river, the elves of the village address her. A group of older elves sit at a table surrounded by thick tree roots as they chat. She had heard they were the same age as Fortuna, though everyone, including Fortuna, sees Amelia as young. Amelia, good morning. You're all out early. Elf, it's you who's late, Amelia. It's nice that you're helping your father's work, but it's a waste of your youth if you don't use some of your time for yourself. Elf, exactly. You're so cute, Amelia, you need to have fun while you're cute. Elf, if I were as young and cute as you, Amelia, I'd be bicycling the village. Amelia tilts her head at the term bicycling the village, while the women all look at each other and laugh, squealing. The details of their conversation are more or less beyond Amelia, but it's good that everyone is having fun. Finding herself feeling happy, Amelia relaxes as well. Elf, there, now that's much better than looking down. Smile, let's see a smile. Amelia, right. After pointing at the smiling Amelia, the women's fingers pull their cheeks into a grin. Seeing their argument as legitimate, Amelia identically makes a smile and nods. Waving a goodbye to the women, Amelia resumes her course toward the river. She scales the gnarled tree roots, passes through gaps in verdant leaves. Hearing the burbling of a brooklet, Amelia breaks into a jog, her face beaming. Amelia, I am here, wah. Amelia. The instant she pushes a branch out of the way and pokes out her head, she sees someone toweling themselves dry right in front of her, looking shocked. Realizing that the intruder is Amelia, the youth's eyes flit here and they're in confusion. Amelia, ah youth, auh. Amelia puts her hand to her mouth as the youth's feet slip and he plunges into the river. Splash. A spray of water cascades up as he lands in the brook. Amelia, Arch. Are you okay? Standing atop where he fell, Amelia looks down and calls down to him. Bubbles arise one after another on the water's face for a moment, before a blond young man floats to the surface. He wipes his face with his hand, then raises his hand at the onlooking Amelia. Arch, look, Amelia. Don't interrupt people right when they're almost done bathing. Amelia, I'm sorry. I didn't think anyone be here, but I'm glad it was you, Arch. Arch, what are you implying? Amelia pats her chest in relief. Arch yells, cursing the absurdity of it all. Amelia puts her finger to her lips and hums. Amelia, I mean we're close, Arch, so you'll forgive me. Arch, auh. Amelia, me, I've always thought of you like a big brother, so you'll definitely say there was no helping today and forgive me, I think. Arch, think damn what? God damn it, has no idea what I feel. Arch mumbles his regrets while sinking his mouth into the water, spewing bubbles. Which means the latter of his statement drowns and Amelia does not hear it. Amelia, and I came here to take a bath. Can I jump in next to you? Arch, wah. I idiot, don't. Take a bath, in somewhere as open as this? Of course you can't. Be a little more discreet. Are you trying to be a child forever? Amelia, no. Arch, no news. Amelia, way. Arch, no ways either. Having readied herself to leap into the river, Amelia pouts at Arch's prohibition on bathing. She's not sure why he's so panicked, but either way Arch is being mean today. Maybe he's mad about slipping and falling in the river. Amelia, Arch, I'm sorry. Arch, how come you're being so docile suddenly? Amelia, I thought maybe you really didn't like falling in. I'm sorry. So let me take a bath too. If I don't, Mother Fortuna won't let me eat. Arch, that's something a kid'd think. Yells Arch, hands to his head. He stops dog paddling for an instant and sinks into the water slightly. Meaning, for an instant, he takes his attention off Amelia. Amelia, woo, Arch, ah. After her quiet cheer, sunlight schemes across Amelia's eyelashes and she's falling. Her silver hair flutters out behind her as she shoots toes first into the water. Amelia's contact with the water gives not a single unneeded splash as she sinks with shocking calm, reaching the bottom of the deep river. In the clear water, Amelia's open eyes sight the fish and water plants swaying in the current. Her foot contacts the river bottom. She savors the tickly feeling of sand as she ascends. Her face pops up beside Arch. Amelia, Arch, no. Pause. Amelia smooths her wet hair back and backstrokes away from the yelling Arch. Arch furrows his brows, perhaps wanting to say more, but seems to guess that saying it won't stop Amelia anyway. He gives a deep sigh and goes around to behind Amelia. Amelia, this feels nice, Arch. Arch, well, you jumped in yourself, so maybe it does for you. I got pushed in and sprayed with water when you jumped in, so I'm feeling terrible. Amelia, okay. I'm glad you're having fun too. Arch, you really are an optimistic girl, Amelia. Feeling complimented, Amelia floats on the water as she puffs out her chest. Arch averts his gaze and scratches at his nose. His cheeks are red. But the water's cold. Does he have a fever? Amelia, are you unwell? Is that why you're mad you fell in the water? If so, then of course he'd tell her off for what she did, even after she apologized. Though, she'd like to drag Arch out of the river and heal him with magic immediately. Arch, no, it's not that, don't worry. That's not what's going on. Amelia. Around guys, you shouldn't, no I mean, around people, you shouldn't be this exposed. Especially around people you're not close with. Amelia. But Arch, you're who I'm closest with? Arch, even around people you're close with. But just only do it around me. Amelia. Not around mother? Arch, around Fortuna-sama, me, and that woman. Yelling at Amelia as she tilts her head, Arch bites his lip, his face reddening further. Then he sinks into the water and grumbles, disappearing from Amelia's view as she furrows her brows. Is the instant when he splashes up by the riverbank and pulls himself onto the shore. Arch, okay, you get out of there too, Amelia. When you're just trying to wake up, usually you just wash your face, not take a bath. I don't think Fortuna-sama would tell you go bathing right in the morning. Amelia, actually, you might be right. I didn't bring a change of clothes. Arch, seriously, what are you doing? Says Arch, looking astonished at Amelia's reckless behavior. Amelia starts swimming over to him when he dashes into the forest and returns with a towel. Arch, wipe yourself down with this and wrap it around yourself until you get back to your house. Heck. You're a handful of a child no matter how old you get. Amelia, ahaha, I'm sorry, Arch, thank you for lending me this. Even Amelia has to reflect on her actions after all of this. His outstretched hand takes her arm and pulls her out of the river, where she takes the towel and dries her long hair. It glimmers silver in the sunlight, terribly heavy with water. Amelia, was my hair always this long? Arch, what are you talking about? You've been growing it out for ages. Something about how it's the same color as Fortuna-sama's and looks pretty. The towel absorbs the water when Arch hits her with that statement. After hearing it said, it does feel like he's right, but when exactly did she decide to grow it out? Although feeling that something isn't quite right, Amelia chooses to avert her gaze from the strangeness. She gets the damp out of her hair and begins toweling her body. That done, she peers into the river and reaches out to fulfill her original goal of washing her face. Seeing her face reflected on the water, Amelia's throat jars. Pale skin. Amethyst eyes. Pink lips. Long, glistening silver hair. All exact components of her own self. Nothing has changed and nothing is strange. As if strange things, odd things, incorrect things, are all she sees here. Amelia, ah. Patting, slapping at her cheeks, Amelia exhales choppy breath after choppy breath. Her lungs feel like they're convulsing. She can't breathe properly. Her guts constrict and throbbing, painful pressure coursing through her whole. Arch, Amelia, what's wrong? Noticing Amelia's irregular state, Arch speaks with his voice low. Amelia keeps staring at the water's edge, motionless, as Arch touches her shoulder and strokes her head from behind. Arch, did you see something strange in the river? Amelia, no. Arch, did your stomach start hurting? I can't use healing magic, so I'll have to take you to someone else. Amelia, that's not it. She feels the touch of Arch's palm and hears the sound of his voice, but does not draw her gaze away from the water. Arch follows Amelia's gaze, seemingly realizing what she is looking at. He timidly points at Amelia reflected on the water. Arch, did something happen to your face? But I think it looks the same, pretty as always. Amelia, it's an adult's. Arch, huh? Amelia, my face is an adult's. I've never even seen my face before. Seeing an unfamiliar face on the water, Amelia whispers with trembling voice. She moves her fingers to check whether this face may not be hers, but the reflection mirrors her movements and denies that possibility. This face belonged to her. Never seen it before, and it's hers. Amelia, After noticing that one decisive point of oddity, many more inconsistencies come into focus. She looks down. Her chest has grown. Her hair too. Her limbs are longer than she remembers, and there's supposed to be a bigger size difference between herself and Arch. People's perceptions of her and conversations with her have changed in nuance. And how many times have people pointed out that she's not a child? No. She isn't. Amelia, I have to go. Arch, Amelia? Amelia stands up, her head swaying slightly as she turns around. The forest she ran through, and the village. The house where Fortuna awaits. She needs to go back there. She doesn't know what she needs to do yet, but that point alone is unshakable truth. Amelia, Arch, I'm sorry. I'm going back to Mother Fortuna's. Arch, why yeah, that's fine, but is everything okay with you? Amelia, I'm fine now. I'm sorry for interrupting your bath. And I'll be okay without the towel. Amelia takes off the towel and pushes it against the confused Arch. She makes sure that he takes it before breaking barefoot into a run. Fast as she can, back to her house and behind her, Arch, Amelia. She hears Arch. Her heart insists that she has no time to wait, but she still ends up stopping. As if someone had told her to never let a single thing Arch says escape her. She glances back. Arch raises his hand. Arch, I don't know what's up, but if you're ever worried about something, you can always talk to me. Because I'm like a brother to you. After a second of hesitation, Arch gives Amelia those impassioned words. For some reason, hearing them makes something surge up in Amelia's chest. She's definitely happy to have heard those words. But she has a feeling that the thing swelling up from her heart differs from ordinary joy. Amelia, right? Thank you, big bro. Amelia waves in response to the blushing Arch and resumes her run. Fortuna. I'm sure I just told you to wash your face, so how did you manage to come back with your whole body sopping wet? Your mother's mystified. Sighs an astonished Fortuna as she welcomes her dripping wet daughter back home. While her hair has mostly been toweled dry, Amelia's white clothing sticks to her skin and water drips from her skirt. Amelia, I'm sorry, mother. I was kinda half asleep. Fortuna, I know I said to wash your face to get rid of your sleepiness, and you sure did put some energy into doing that. You really are a child no matter how old you get. Did anyone see you looking like this? It's embarrassing that someone would see you when you look like a drowned rat, is probably what she means. Then, miraculously, no, she didn't run into anybody on the way back. Amelia, no, it's okay. Only Arch saw. Fortuna, HM? Arch. Well, if it's him, but I suspect Arch has started viewing you differently than he used to. Amelia, mother? Fortuna, no, it's nothing. Now, come here. Amelia lowers her gaze. Fortuna looks on resignedly before stroking Amelia's head, then taking her hand and pulling her into the house. But water continues to drip from her clothes. Amelia, mother, the house is getting all wet. Fortuna, just need to towel that dry afterwards. Anyway, I have a towel, so dry yourself with that and get changed in your room. I'll make breakfast when you're back. This house, made in a hollowed-out tree, was created by pouring manna into an old arbor to change the thing's shape. Amelia and Fortuna's house was handmade by Fortuna, and is a rather large dwelling for only 2 people. The second floor has each of their rooms, while the first floor is a dining and kitchen space. Thinking back on it, it was a luxurious use of rooms. Thinking back on it, is a rather weird statement. Fortuna, come on, get going. Amelia, wog, a towel presses itself into her face while she is in thought. Amelia looks at Fortuna in protest, but seeing her mother's gaze as she puts her hand to her hip quickly leads Amelia to surrender. The towel smells like sun on her face. She dries herself as she returns to her room on the second floor. Her room is a plain thing. This also goes for Fortuna, but Amelia doesn't especially like pointless decorations. Her room hosts the bare minimum of furniture, with a few extra fixtures. It has a wooden box with her clothes in it, which Amelia squats down next to. She grabs a random outfit out of it and speedily changes out of her wet clothes and into that. Just like with her room, Amelia feels no urge to embellish her clothing. She pulls a short-sleeved outfit, long enough to cover her uppers and lowers, over her head. Then she changes her undergarments and exits the room, while making a conscious effort not to look at the object beside the clothes box. Amelia, Mother Fortuna, I'll wash the wet clothes by myself, so goodness. I think that filial and excellent of you. Amelia puts the laundry in a basket and comes down the stairs, when a man's voice welcomes her. Amelia's breathing jams as she hears the kind, affectionate voice. She looks over at the dining table. Usually Fortuna and Amelia would be the only ones around the table, and so one of these 3 chairs is excessive. It's the chair they use when a certain someone is visiting, which Fortuna brought out from deeper in the house. The person seated in that chair is of course the familiar, Amelia, Juice. Juice, indeed, it is lovely to see you again, Amelia-sama. Now, has anything notably different happened for you? Amelia, me? No, it's been same as usual. Juice, it's been so long. I didn't know you were coming today, how come you're here? Juice, you did not know? I was sure that I had asked my finger to contact you prior. The mild-faced man, Juice, puts his hand to his chin in thought. He is a good-natured person and appears to be earnestly disconcerted, but Amelia instantly deduces the culprit. She passes by Juice to peer into the kitchen, where she sees Fortuna with her hand to her mouth, stifling a laugh. Amelia, Mother, you kept it a secret. Fortuna, ho, now did I? I might have only forgotten about it. Amelia, I don't think so. Juice's seat is there, and you're making food for 3. Fortuna, sharp eyes. You're usually a little off-kilter, but you're so perceptive about these things. Fortuna winks at Amelia and whistles as she picks up a dish. She presents it to Amelia. Fortuna, now come help set the table, Leah. You can't cook anything on your own, so I should at least be able to ask you to arrange things. Amelia, HRMP, changing the subject. And I can't cook because you won't teach me. Fortuna, you'll absolutely mix up the sugar and salt, and I'm too scared to put a girl who can't handle a knife properly in the kitchen. Cutting off Amelia's rebuttals, Fortuna sets dish after dish on the table. Although unsatisfied, Amelia follows dejectedly behind her to the table. Seated at the table, Juice looks at the fragrant dishes and breaks into a smile. Juice, I am privileged to partake in your cooking, Fortuna-sama. The joy does not fade, no matter how numerous the occasions I relish it. Fortuna, and there you go again, saying that so easily. Juice, I am merely conveying my honest feelings? Fortuna, that's what I'm saying is devious. Juice tilts his head, looking somewhat distressed. Watching their exchange makes Amelia smile. Just watching them is enough to make Amelia completely forget about how Fortuna argued her into submission. Amelia, if Mother's food makes you so happy, Juice, you should just live here too. Fortuna, Amelia. While placing a large plate overflowing with vegetables on the middle of the table, Amelia rides the conversation and tries that sentence out. Immediately, Fortuna looks panicked and her face flashes red as she glances over at Juice. Fortuna, don't say anything crazy. Juice has so many things he has to deal with, he's fitting time in his busy schedule to come see us and... Juice, I am overjoyed by the offer, Amelia-sama. Were it a possibility, I would like to oblige. Sincerely I would. Fortuna rushes to object while Juice replies calmly, the two in utter contrast. Juice's statement kills Fortuna's momentum and she plumps down into her chair, before drawing herself up small. Looking at the two, Amelia also takes her seat. This scene unfolding before her looks overwhelmingly natural to Amelia. Amelia, Mother, Juice, if neither of you object then you should just do it. No one's going to stop you from being like that. Unless I'm stopping you? It's plain to see that Fortuna and Juice think favorably of the other. Perhaps they're not going any further than this fixed limit because of Amelia's presence. However, Amelia's worry is Fortuna, you're not. Juice, you are not. promptly dispelled by the two as a needless anxiety. Amelia's eyes widen. Fortuna and Juice look at each other, realizing that they said the same thing, and laugh. Amelia, see, you really do get along so well. Fortuna, stop teasing us, Amelia. Juice, tell her off too. Juice, indeed, Amelia-sama. Fortuna-sama is a splendid person. Should someone of my likes overstay their welcome, it will burden her with objectionable rumors. Amelia, HRRMPF. But, I think you're too late for that. Juice undersells himself as he elevates Fortuna. Amelia sees a sadness in Fortuna's gaze as she looks at him, and raises her finger. Amelia, after all, everyone always tells me it when I go outside the house. Not to cause trouble for Mother Fortuna or Father Romani Conti. It's pretty funny how dumbstruck the two look at hearing that. Amelia puts her hands to her mouth to keep herself from laughing, settles her breathing, and, Amelia, I'm serious. When I stayed up last night, and got transfixed in bridging the differences between the old books you gave me, Juice, and the maps, everyone praises me for helping in my father's work. Fortuna, who is, saying. Amelia, to Hina-san from across the street, Mido-san and Granny Tansei. Fortuna, those three gossips. Imaging their faces floating in the air, Fortuna bites her lip in frustration. Her brows shoot down in anger, her face just a little scary. Amelia says, now to console her, and Amelia, anyway, everyone thinks that. And me too, thought about stuff, kinda a lot, and it's. Juice, Amelia-sama, there is no need to force yourself to ponder it. Amelia, and no. I think it's good. But it just kinda feels like Mother's being taken away, so I can't calm down. Everyone else is fully ready for it, but the two of them and Amelia are being fickle. Though their problem is one thing, and Amelia would prefer that her emotions not get in the way of their decision. After all, even by Amelia's view, they're a wonderful match for each other. Amelia, I think it'd be so great. You two should think about it too. Fortuna and Juice are silent. Amelia, not anyone in the forest, and not me, and not anyone's going to stop you. I'm not gonna let anyone tell you it's bad or you can't do it. Amelia's hands strike the table as she speaks zealously. She then realizes that she's getting too passionate, and looks taken aback. The two gaze at her as she strokes her hair, and seats herself. Amelia, and so. I'll leave the rest to you young'uns. Fortuna, seriously, Amelia, where are you leaning this? Fortuna looks astonished as always at red-faced Amelia's comment. But the expression soon vanishes beneath a laugh. Fortuna, hoo. Juice, ahaha, Amelia-sama, indeed, you have grown. I was lacking in discernment when I judged that nothing was different. Fortuna, you were, Juice. She's my prided daughter, of course she would. Juice, yes, I underestimated her. Fortuna and Juice look at each other and laugh. The atmosphere around the two is even more tender than before, and Amelia senses that her own statements have brought about a change. The two of them abound with warmth. The gaze they share, surely, carries a different nuance from before. It's a terribly happy scene. Fortuna, Amelia? Fortuna glances at Amelia and calls her name. Amelia swallows her breath and buries her face in her hands. She panically wipes away the tears threatening to spill from her eyes, and gives a forced, Amelia, I think there's some gunk in my eye. Gunk that's so big. Fortuna, that big? Are you okay? Amelia, I'm okay, it's only fist-sized. Juice, are you certain you will be well? Amelia, I'm fine. Amelia rubs vigorously at her eyes as she stands up. She leaves the table, and begins heading for the second floor. Amelia, I'm going to put in some really good eye drops. It'll freshen my eyes up so well they'll fall out. Fortuna, your eyes are such a pretty amethyst, Amelia, don't throw them away. They're exactly like my brother's, and lovely. Amelia, and they're the same color as yours, mother. Perhaps not expecting that response, Fortuna's eyes open in surprise. Emilia sees Juice laugh at her expression, and Emilia laughs too. She smiles as her foot lands on the staircase. She glances back at the two. Emilia, you two eat breakfast. I'll be back right away. Fortuna, it won't be good once it gets cold, so really do come back right away. Emilia, right away. Juice, then we will await your return restfully, Emilia-sama. With those send-offs from Fortuna and Juice, Emilia takes a deep breath. She glances back one last time, looks down at the two at the table. Emilia, I love you both. With that, Emilia returns to her room. Emilia closes the door to her room and sighs, expelling all the air inside her. Her innards feel squeezed, constricted. She slaps her cheeks to psych herself up, shakes her head, and walks over to a corner of the room. Next to Emilia's box of clothes is something long and thin, with a thin cloth draped over it. Emilia had never thought to reach for that thing until now, but Emilia, if I don't face it, it won't start. Give her courage. Emilia traces her finger over her lips, remembering the warmth as she pulls the drape. The cloth falls. Behind it is a polished full-length mirror to reflect Emilia from her head to her toes. Did this scene of ideal happiness grant you with anything? With a white-haired witch standing where Emilia's image should be. In Chapter 123b.